you can draw this in Procreate. During this tutorial, we are going to create this graffiti style Cyclops octopus. And it might be a bit more challenging than usual. We are going to start out with sketching actually. If you are having trouble with sketching, then you might want to join Patreon, where I have over 100 Procreate video tutorials, including special sketching classes and exercises. Now don't forget to share your results once you have finished following this tutorial. When you share it on Instagram, don't just tag me in the description, but also in the image, so I will be able to find your work and perhaps we'll see it in the next video. Just like these amazing results from my friends at Patreon. Now let's get started. First of all, the canvas is 2300 pixels by 3000 pixels. The color profile is set to sRGB and I have added a color palette which you can download through the link in the description. Like I said, we are going to start out by making a sketch. And I like sketching with my chalk pencil, which is part of the treasure chest brush pack. You can get it for free by going to freefromflow.com. It doesn't just have all of these free brushes, but it also comes with an ebook about color theory. Now for our sketch, I'm going to use the chalk pencil and I have the color set to black. The opacity of this brush is set to 100% and the size is at 35%. We are going to start with the basic shape of our octopus, which is a circle. Now when you're sketching, you can really keep it messy. Don't worry about making a super tidy sketch. So now we have our basic circle and now we are going to add the tentacles of our octopus. We are going to make a curved line here outwards. Will be a little bit of a pointy shape. Then we'll go down and back to the body. A bit like this. Then we'll make another tentacle over here. A curved line up and then downward, which is sticking out here at the bottom. And then a curved line over here, going to the center of the body. This is about the center over here. Now let's make a tentacle on this side. We'll make a curved line up and outwards outside of the body. Then a rounded shape here. And then we'll make a curved line going down here. Then we'll make another tentacle over here. Curved shape like this, a little bit pointy. And then a rounded shape going back to that center here. Now in the center, I want a big Cyclops eye, reminding me a little bit of Plankton from SpongeBob. And it has a big mouth like this. Also a little bit like Plankton. And we'll make a curved line going down here for its mouth. And we'll add a little tongue. Two curved lines like this. And then another one over here. We will also add some of those suction cup-like things to its body. Perhaps one over here, one here. Around its head, a little one over here, and of course on the tentacles. So right now our sketch, it's really still very messy, but that's okay. You can start out messy. And some of these suction cups over here. And now once you have this really messy sketch, you can actually make it more tidy by going to your layer menu, lowering the opacity of this sketch, and then make a new layer on top by tapping the plus. And then we can make a more tidy sketch on top of our messy sketch. And this is how I always like to work when sketching. Let's make the brush a little bit smaller, 20%. And let's just follow our initial sketch and make it more tidy. This is where those suction cup-like things will come. So this way, and you can just change your sketch a little bit. Try to decide where you want your final line to be. And right now I'm making 2 sketches, one messy one and then a next one, but you can also do this like 3 times, 4 times. You might need more layers to get to the sketch that you want. You will have those suckers. You can just play around with the placement of the different elements, and you can change these tentacles a little bit while you work on your more tidy sketch. We have the center. We'll go up here, follow this line. Now let's go for the mouth. I want to make it just a little bit bigger actually, so I'll make my line a bit more to the left. This is how you can adjust your sketch a little bit. And I want this area to be bigger as well. And then we have the tongue with a line like this. Now, in case you are having trouble with sketching, I will make my sketch available through the same link as the color palette. So you can also just download my sketch and work from that. I also want 2 pink cheeks for our octopus. And let's go over the eye and give it an iris. And a pupil. I think this looks like a happy little Cyclops. Now that we have our sketch, let's lower the opacity of the sketch actually, of both layers by tapping the N. And now we can work on our line art. We are going to do that on a new layer. Do make sure that you make a new layer, because you'll be sorry if you start working on your sketch layer. So tap the plus. And for our brush, we are going to go to the inking brushes and use the syrup brush. And for the color, we are going to use this dark blue color over here. I have the opacity of this brush at 100% and the size is at 14%. And with this brush, the harder you press, the thicker your stroke will become. But that only works if you are using a pen with pressure sensitivity like the Apple Pencil. Now we are just going to follow our sketch lines. And this might be a little bit challenging. It takes some practicing to get control over a brush like this. But that's why we have undo. And you can undo your strokes as many times as you want. Don't worry, I do that all the time. So we are going to follow these strokes. And here we are going to use light pressure at the start. Then make it thicker and then light pressure at the end. Here as well. And then a little circle over here. Then we'll go for this suction thingy. And then we'll attach these 2 parts. And then of course you can rotate your canvas if that's easier for you, if it's easier to work from that angle. Then a little circle here. Then we'll attach these 2 parts. And we'll continue over here. And then we'll move on to the tentacles. We'll start with a thin line over here and then make it thicker as we move to the outside. So again, this might take a little practice. Then we have these suction cups. You can start with these suckers and then attach these areas. Now for this piece, I was inspired by street art that I saw in Amsterdam actually. And I thought I could turn it into a nice "you can draw this" tutorial. I always love how colorful street art can be. Now for this one, we'll start thin again and make it thicker. A little line over here. Here we have another sucker. If you are having trouble controlling your pen pressure, you might need to adjust your pressure curve. That could help. Or you can also make your brush a little bit smaller if your strokes tend to get too thick. Then for this side, again, start thin, then make it thicker, and then thin again. One over here, attach these two. Here at the beginning of the tentacle, we'll press lightly, then press harder, and then lightly again. Then we have these again. And then we'll attach these areas like this. Then we only need lines for the mouth. We won't be adding an outline to the eye. And for the mouth, I'd like to start lightly with a thin line on the end. So we'll start with light pressure, press harder, and then press lightly again. Press lightly, harder, and lightly. And here again, we'll go down, press hard, press light. Now for the tongue, I would like to use a pink outline, this color, the 5th color in the 2nd row. And let's make a layer underneath this line layer. So first tap this layer, then tap the plus. And then let's make the brush a little bit smaller. Let's go for 8%. Let's zoom in a little bit. Press hard, then light, hard, then light. And here light, harder. And there we have our outlines. Now we are going to fill our line art with color, but we are not going to do that on the same layer as we have our line art on. First, let's merge our line art layers by pinching them together. And then we are going to tap this layer and turn on reference. Now we can fill this shape on a separate layer. So we can make a layer underneath. First go to layer 2, then tap the plus. And now when we fill the shape with color, it won't go outside of it. First, let's grab this color over here, the 3rd color in the 1st row, and drag it onto our octopus. You can see that we have missed a few areas. We can just fill them by hand with our brush. And we need to color the tongue. We are going to do that by using this 7th color in the 2nd row and drag it on here. Now let's work on the eye for our octopus. Let's make a new layer underneath our line layer by tapping the plus. And let's turn off our color layer for now so that we can see our sketch. For our color, let's grab this color over here. That's the 6th color in the 1st row. And for our brush, let's use the monoline brush, which you can find under calligraphy. The opacity is at 100% and the size is at 15%. And now we are going to make an oval. Hold your pen in place to make it snap to a quick shape. And you can use edit shape here at the top to change it a little bit if needed. And then before you drag in a color, to make sure that you turn off reference on this layer. Otherwise, it'll not look at our circle, our oval, but at this shape. So tap it, turn off reference, then go back to layer 5 and then drag in the color. Now we can actually turn our color layer back on with the blue for our octopus. And let's make a new layer by tapping the plus. And now we are going to grab this color over here, the third color in the second row. Draw an oval, hold your pen in place, and tap edit shape here at the top. And change the shape a little bit, like this. Then drag in the color. Then make a new layer on top, tap the plus. And for the color, we are going to use the second color in the second row. And now we are going to draw another oval. Hold your pen in place. Then use edit shape. Place it like this. Drag in the color. And then another layer, tap the plus. Then for the color, use the first color in the second row. And then another oval, hold your pen in place, use edit shape. And place it like this. And drag in the color. Now we can actually turn off our sketch layers. We don't really need them anymore. Now let's work on adding some of that graffiti texture to our octopus. Let's go to layer 4, tap the plus, then tap the layer and turn on clipping mask. So whatever we paint, it'll only show up on our octopus. And for the brush, we are going to go to the spray paints brushes and we are going to use the medium nozzle. For the color, let's grab this slightly darker color than our base color. It's the second color in the first row. I have the opacity set to 40% and the size is set to 30%. And let's go over the lower areas. You can actually barely see it, but it'll give a slight texture. We're going to do the same with the lighter blue. Let's go for the fourth color in the first row. And we'll go over the top area. With these rounded motions, add some light to the top of our octopus. Also here for this tentacle and over here a little bit. Then let's move to the fat nozzle. For this brush, I have the opacity set to 50%. And let's set the size to 30%. Now let's move back to that darker color, that second color in the first row. And let's just make some dabs. So you can see over here, you get that nice speckled look. Let's do the same with the light color, the fourth color in the first row. And go over the top area a little bit. So now we have a little bit of that graffiti texture. Next, let's use the fine nozzle and we're going to add some highlights to our octopus. Let's do it on a different layer just to be sure. Tap the plus, then tap this layer and set it to clipping mask. And for the color, we are going to use this fifth color in the first row. The opacity of the brush is at 100% and the size is at 3%. And let's first color the undersides of these tentacles. So color them in by hand. Follow that curve of the tentacle here as well to that center. And it's okay if the edges are a little bit messy. Then over here, let's do it like this. Curve down and color it in. Then let's switch to the lighter color, which is the 6th color in the first row. And let's make the brush a little bit smaller, 2%. And now let's add highlights to the octopus. For instance, over here, make a line along the edge, also around this suction thing. Slight highlight, and then over here on the body, and over here on the tentacle. Let's do the same over here. Little light, and on its mouth, lower side. Then we have this tentacle, top of this one, just along the edge, and this one over here. Now let's add a little bit of extra light to these areas along the edge. Perhaps a little bit on these suction cup things. For a little bit of color variation here. Now let's also make the pink cheeks. Let's use this color for that. It's the 6th color in the 2nd row. Let's make the brush a little bit bigger. Let's go for 8%. Now let's go over here and make 2 rosy cheeks. We can now make the brush a little bit smaller, 3%, for a bit more of a crisp edge, but not too crisp. It can be a little bit messy. Now I also want to make the edges of the eye a little bit more messy, so let's go to those layers, like layer 5. Let's zoom in a little bit. I actually want to make this eye a little bit lighter, so let's grab this color over here. The 7th color in the first row, let's drag it on top. And while using this color, let's go along the edges and make it a little bit more messy to give it more of that graffiti look. Now, if it's getting too messy, then you might need to make your brush a little bit smaller. Now let's do the same for the next layer, layer 6. Grab that color. You can also do it by holding your finger on the screen. Let's make the brush 2% and just go along the edge to give it a bit more of a rough look. And I'll do the same for the next one, layer 7. Grab that color. All along the edge. And finally, layer 8. Grab that color. Go along the edge. To mess it up a little bit. Now let's merge these eye layers by pinching them together. And then let's make a new layer on top by tapping the plus. And let's grab that light color, that 7th color in the first row, and let's add some highlights to the eye. Let's start over here. Make a circle there. Doesn't have to be too tidy. And the circle is covering the light green, the dark green, and the black. And over here as well, a big oval. And a small one over here in the black area. Make this one even bigger. Now we just need to color the mouth. Let's go let's go and turn reference on again on layer 4. Tap the layer, then turn on reference. Then let's make a layer underneath it, so we can tap layer 8, tap the plus. And then let's color that tongue with this color over here, the 7th color in the 2nd row. Now let's add a little highlight to the tongue as well. To make sure that we don't go outside of the pink, let's tap the layer and turn on alpha lock. And for the color, let's grab this light blue 6th color in the 1st row. And let's go along these edges for a little highlight there. Now I just want a little red in the mouth. Let's make a layer underneath this one. Tap layer 8, then tap the plus. Then let's grab the inking brush again, the syrup. And for the color, we'll grab this 4th color in the 2nd row. And then we'll add a little area here that is red. There we have our Cyclops octopus. Let's make it look more like a graffiti artwork by adding a brick wall. To add a brick wall, we need to go to the wrench, then to add, and then to insert a photo. And I'm going to add this brick wall over here. Now let's zoom out. Of course, it's not on the right layer yet, but that's okay. Let's make it bigger. Like this. Then tap the arrow again to get out of this menu. And then let's make sure that it's on the right layer. Let's move it all the way down. And now let's lower the opacity of our octopus. We are going to do that by first grouping all of these layers together by sliding to the right. Then selecting group. Close it. And now you could just flatten your group, or you could have just merged all the layers together. But if you want to be able to change things later, if you want to be able to fix some things, whatever, then you might want to keep your layers. So what I'll do is duplicate this group by dragging to the left and tapping duplicate, and then merging this layer by tapping it and then selecting flatten. Now, if you don't have enough layer space to do this, then you can also just duplicate your entire project by going to the gallery and duplicating it. That way you can always just go back to your artwork and make changes on your layers. I'm going to turn this group off, and then I'll lower the opacity of the octopus by tapping the N and then dragging the slider to the left to, let's say, 92%. Now I want to make the octopus just a little bit bigger. Let's go to the move and transform tool, the little arrow. Make sure that you have it set to uniform, and I have the interpolation set to bicubic. And drag the handles and make it a little bit bigger. And then just tap the arrow again to get out of the menu, and you're done. You have created a cute Cyclops octopus graffiti artwork. I hope you have enjoyed following this tutorial. If you want to do more challenging projects, then be sure to check out my Patreon page. Like I said, there are over 100 video tutorials, so that's more than enough to keep you busy. I would like to thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.